Hello there, everyone. This is the BlitzBurgh Banter, a terrible podcast production. I am the accomplice to this guy to my left. His name is Andrew. We will be talking about everything Pittsburgh Steelers. Today is our inaugural show for this podcast, and it happens to be on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. So because of that, we got a little glass of beer here. Let's do a little toast to St. Patrick's Day and our first podcast. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. That's incredible.
And what are you drinking over there, AA Ron?
We got some Leinenkugel's Blueberry, actually. What about you there, my friend?
Well, I have a Yingling, or better known here in central Pennsylvania as the Pennsylvania Tap Water.
Central Pennsylvania tap water.
Absolutely.
Because I believe Iron City Beer in Pittsburgh is probably the tap water of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Iron City. But real quick, what we want to accomplish here with this show is we want to have fun, just talking about the Steelers, what's going on, keep it entertaining atmosphere. Hope to have some guests on down the road. Like I said, just have a good time and bring you along with us as we chat about and banter about our favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So with that, I'm going to send it over here to Andrew, and he's going to get us started with our first show and what we want to talk about.
So first episode here, everyone, we're going to look at the 2023 year in review. So the goods, the bads, and dare I say the uglies. So I just kind of want to take us all the way back here to the preseason. So we keep Matt Canada. Obviously, Steelers Nation appalled, upset about that, rightfully so, as 2023 proceeded throughout. But you know, the offense, though, throughout the preseason actually looked really good as they played those 3 games. I think they had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and everything looked really easy through the preseason. So
they won every single one. Not that matters, but
no, it doesn't. But yeah. the first team actually looked really good. So
agreed.
San Francisco comes into town week 1, and don't get me wrong, San Francisco has a stacked roster. I mean, there's a reason why they were in the Super Bowl this year. So I thought, you know, if we only lose by a score, we're heading in the right direction. And well, I don't know how you thought about that game, Aaron, but to me, in the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh gosh, we're in trouble. We're in absolute trouble this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, quite honestly, I was thankful to score 7 points because at least we didn't get shut out. So when you're in that situation that you're just praying to get into the end zone, you know it's not a good situation. But yeah, that game was basically over before the first quarter was even out. So
right. So fast forwarding a little bit, you know, we had ugly wins against the Browns and then ugly win against the Raiders. And honestly, that Browns game, I think our defense scored more than our offense did. Thankfully to Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt.
TJ Watt, absolutely.
Who should be defensive MVP of the year again this year, just saying.
Should have been in 2023. You got robbed, but that's another topic for another day.
Absolutely. And then we go to Houston and get absolutely shrouded by CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans.
Yes.
Like no chance in that game. And then
was it 2 field goals? Is that how we scored there? I think it was 30-6.
Yeah. 2 field goals. Yep. Thank you to Chris Boswell.
Yeah. Applause to that man.
And then after that, I do believe, Aaron, you and I were at this game in person.
Baltimore.
Yes.
Indeed.
At home.
Yes.
And so we usually go to the Renegade Tailgate in the Science Museum. One of the best tailgates you can possibly go to.
Highly recommended.
Yes. Great people, great atmosphere, great vibe.
Shout out to Lenny.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
But this tailgating experience was different than any other time we've been there. Like the fans were actually on nerve, uneasy. I would dare to say even depressed. Like nobody was actually like excited for this game just because of how the season was starting. And basically we were getting a 2022 reminder of this is where the team's at still.
Right. Well, I mean, we beat the Browns by 4 points. We squeaked out of Las Vegas essentially. So yeah.
Right. There's no hope coming into this game.
Right. And you're going against Lamar Jackson.
Right. And and their offense is playing great up to this point.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, and if you didn't see the game, I mean, basically the Ravens dropped, I don't know how many passes, but they at least had 2 touchdown passes that literally hit either their receivers in the chest or in their hands, and they dropped them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't until the last minute and a half where I think Kenny Pickett basically said, screw you, Matt Canada. I'm actually just going to throw a deep ball to George Pickens since he's one-on-one. And guess what? He was one-on-one for 75% of the game because we actually had great so we sit up in the closed end section right behind the field goal, so we can actually see what the defense alignments are.
Oh yeah,
and
it's bird's eye view,
right?
Yeah.
And like it's amazing to me like what our offense was trying to dictate, because they would just load the box and basically just say, okay, try to throw the ball more than 8 yards, and we should be able to do that in the NFL, and
right.
And we're just not even trying to do that, which is just was shocking to me. But anyway, Pickett hits that pass to George Pickens, touchdown. We end up somehow winning that game. Makes no sense.
Yep.
So then we go
the bye week.
Yeah. Well, yep. And then we play against the Rams. Actually looked a little bit better. And then Jacksonville comes to town. Tough loss. End up beating the Titans on Thursday night, and then beat the Packers. And again, another close game. But offense did look a little bit better that game, though, actually.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And then
we had a really tough loss at Cleveland.
Right. And then that's actually what prompted Canada to get fired.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So we go to Cincinnati. Canada's gone. Everyone's excited to see what this offense is going to look like. And actually, we didn't score a lot of points, but I think we had our first 300-yard offensive game all season long, if I do remember.
I think you might be right. I know Kenny Pickett threw for like 270, 278, something like that. He threw. It was basically, I think it was actually his best game of his career. Quite honestly, it might be. I mean, he didn't really,
right. But he looked totally different, and also too, we were 7-4 at that point, or 7-3 at that point. So it's like, okay, if we can just handle our business here against these teams that are not doing so well, especially the ones that were coming up, like the Cardinals and the Patriots, which we will get to that here in a minute.
Yeah, like
we should at least secure a wild card spot here pretty easily.
Easily. Yeah, it was kind of an up and down roller coaster a little bit through the first quarter half of the season. I mean, yeah, you're starting off with San Francisco. I mean, it was like a prayer if you thought that we were going to actually win that game. But anything can happen on any given Sunday.
Right. But it was good. But that game though was a good measuring stick.
Yeah, to see where
roster.
We were. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
See, what are we going to do this year? What is the actual reality of our expectations? Because
how do we measure up?
Right, because we always expect Super Bowls here as fans, especially in Pittsburgh, and we've been blessed to win 6.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
But sometimes we actually just need to swallow the pill of reality.
Oh yeah,
and say this is actually where we are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So Pittsburgh ends up winning that game against the Bengals 16-10. Obviously, Joe Burrow is out. We end up beating Jake Browning, and actually Jake Browning actually looked pretty good that game, and for the rest of the season, I will add. But anyway, Cardinals coming to town next week, and Kenny gets injured.
Yes.
Yep. He gets injured at the end of the first quarter, and it was the dumbest injury I think I've ever seen, because literally all he had to do was just hit his first read, and he decides to scramble, and that's whenever he injures his ankle.
Yeah.
And
then that was it.
Yeah.
That was
out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
In comes Mitch Trubisky, which close your eyes.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, great person, but leaves more to be desired. I'd put it essentially.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of reports out here in the past couple weeks about what the front office made Mitch do whenever we drafted Kenny, and I can understand why Mitch didn't look necessarily comfortable whenever he was out actually running the offense, because it looked like he was trying to play perfect.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, but
trying too hard.
Right. And again, Mitch, great person, great human being, and honestly, I mean, he dealt with the situation as professionally as you could possibly deal with the situation. But he's just not an NFL starting quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a backup. Yeah, for sure.
Well, again, let's fast forward this a little bit. Cardinals, Patriots, Colts should be 2 out of 3 easy wins.
Yeah, the Colts, out of all 3 of them, were by far the most formidable.
Right.
Gardner Minshew was looking pretty darn good.
Right.
But out of those 3, we should have gotten 2. Everyone agrees with that. Should have been Arizona and New England. We should have beat. Indy was a toss-up game for sure. But
right. But the big question with Indy though is why was Mason Rudolph not being considered coming in to play? And then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, out comes Mason Rudolph. And then all of a sudden I start thinking, is the problem with this team actually with our coaching staff?
Yeah.
Is the captain of the ship, Mike Tomlin, does he actually know what he's trying to do, or has he fallen asleep at the wheel and is just cruising? And as long as he goes 9-8, as long as he doesn't have a losing season,
as long as we have
that's
good enough.
Yeah, that's the new standard here.
And that's not the standard.
No, it's not. No, absolutely.
The saying the standard is the standard is dressed with Lombardis around it,
right?
Honestly, so
right. Or I'd like to actually hear what the definition of this standard is now, because we don't have Bradshaw coming through those doors anymore. We don't have Ben coming through.
Yeah.
And our defense is ready to win a championship.
Yeah. Oh, the defense is definitely a formidable group for sure. I mean, yeah, T.J. Watt should have been Defensive Player of the Year this year. He was last year, but he should have been again this year. That was robbed.
Sack leader.
Yep, absolutely sack leader. You got Minka. You got Alex Highsmith. You had Landon Roberts. I mean, you have a bunch of guys back there that were definitely,
and even Joey Porter Jr. too.
Absolutely,
rookie. Yep. I don't know why we didn't start him
sooner.
The first couple
trial by
weeks.
fire. Let's go.
Right. I mean, he's a young player. He's a corner. He's going to get better as he gets more experience. He's going to make mistakes, but honestly, I thought he played phenomenal, and he demonstrated why he should have been a first-round pick.
Oh, absolutely. And you knew on draft day last year, whenever everything went down, you knew he had something to prove after all of that. So, Joey Porter Jr. definitely incredible last year. I think for sure did great.
Yeah. So Mason comes back in.
Yep.
Against the Bengals, and we haven't scored over 30 points, and I forget how many games it was, Ron, but the stat was phenomenal. Like, it was what ESPN, Fox Sports were talking about for weeks.
I think we might have been the longest.
I think we were actually
without having scored 30 points in a game. It might have been 2, 3 years, 4 years. It was a long time. It was a stat. Well, I can't pull out right now because, quite honestly, it's traumatizing. I don't want to remember.
Yeah. So. I don't want to go back to therapy for it, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Right.
Well, Mason comes back in. First start since, honestly, the whole helmet scandal with Myles Garrett.
With Myles Garrett. Yeah, absolutely.
Like a while ago. And the offense looks so much better with him running it. And it's like, wait a minute. If he's running this offense so efficiently, why was he never considered?
We almost threw for 300 yards. He almost had a 300-yard game in the air. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying our schemes were perfect in that, but if you just watch the progression of the offense throughout the season, it looks so much more fluid. We actually were trying to dictate the terms of what we were trying to do on offense. We were basically saying, oh, the defense is going to line up a man. Okay, well, we have 2 man beaters that are going to beat you every single time. Oh, yeah. Or the defense is in zone. Okay, Fryermuth's getting the ball. Correct. And also too, we actually decided to use Harris in in more of an upfield tempo running style, or down, or kind of between the tackles, and we actually started to use Warren outside the tackles, and suddenly our running game looks phenomenal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at the Angry Run Awards that Najee Harris won this past year. Oh, and Jaylen Warren, right? Let's throw them both in there together, quite honestly. But yeah.
So things at this point are getting tight for that final wild card spot here to get in. And then we go to Seattle, which I took Seattle as a playoff game.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
If we lose this game, we're done.
It's over.
And it truthfully did play out as a playoff game. It was one of the most entertaining games I saw the Steelers play all year because it was actually solid football.
Oh yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah, it wasn't praying that our defense can bail us out again here, or that our defense can actually somehow score points that the offense should be scoring.
Yeah,
it was actually a very good football game, like all three phases of the game.
I'll just say that game, Rudolph again threw for mid to upper 200s, and I think that was the first game that Harris had over 100 yards rushing, if I'm not mistaken. So passing game was working, the air attack was working, and the ground attack was working. So you had everything working. So
right, and George Pickens actually looked like he was enjoying himself too.
Yeah. Oh, he was getting targeted, and he had quite a few yards.
And in his defense too, Steelers Nation, if you're somebody that has that amount of talent and you're not really getting included into the game plan on the offensive side of the ball, and your offense looks as anemic as it was, and you're losing games, I'd be pretty pissed off too.
Oh yeah. Yo, I'd be upset.
What am
I doing here?
Right, being pissed off about that is actually a good thing. Like everyone was starting to say, "Oh, is he showing signs of Antonio Brown?"
Yeah.
No, like Antonio Brown problems were all off the field and just completely had nothing really to do with the outcomes of games.
Oh yeah.
Pickens, like you could tell, like it's because he cares.
Oh yeah, he wants to be a part of it. He wants to be a part of the reason why they win.
Right, and
absolutely
right, and coming from the Georgia Bulldogs, who I think he was on their 2 national championship teams before he decided to leave and come into the NFL. Like that's gonna be like that's kind of taught into him as well, like this excellence.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's expected.
Right,
it's an expectation. Once again, the standard is the standard, right? I mean, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, actually seeing him be a part of the game plan was like shocking to me. Like, I was like, where was this 10 games ago?
Well, it's what we wanted. It's what all the fans, we've been wanting this. But you just couldn't figure out why in the world it hasn't happened yet. I mean, can you imagine him? I'd be wondering too, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah. What's the point of showing up to practice?
Another person is Calvin Austin.
Well,
I mean,
speaking of Calvin Austin, he has a big possible year coming up this year, which we'll talk about later on in other episodes.
Absolutely.
But just to kind of finish and wrap this up here, so we play against the Ravens.
The arch nemesis.
Yes. Well, we get lucky though. Tyler Huntley played that game. They sat Lamar. They sat some other starters. Mark Andrew was out as well due to his injury, and end up pulling out a tight win there. Which again, it's Steelers Ravens. We always know it's going to be a 1-score game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also too, something I'll take away is that Pickens was actually double covered that whole entire game, and he was actually blocking for our running game because he knew that he was double covered and he was fine with that.
Yeah, there you go.
Like because the defense actually had to adjust to him, and he was totally with the game plan of
doing the blocking,
right, of that situation. So that just proved to me, okay, he is actually a team player. He wants to win a championship.
Yeah,
this is not about accolades, stats, titles.
Yep.
So we go into the playoffs, go into Buffalo, and I'm thinking this is probably going to be a beatdown because it's Buffalo. We're in Buffalo. Game gets delayed till.
Oh yeah, that was to what, Monday or Tuesday or something like that. I think it was.
Yeah.
It was a Monday night game.
Right, shocking. And shout out to Buffalo. There, you should really look at trying to put a dome over the new stadium, but obviously you guys aren't. So the snow is going to be a thing for years to come.
Hey, I like snow.
Yeah, it's fun to play with in that. But but
throw snowballs at the players out there, right? That was happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
But again, but Mason actually looked pretty good. He had one bad play in that game. He had the one interception in the end zone.
Yeah,
and that was it. And that was the bad play on offense. And yes, that's obviously the reason why we lost that game. But we had actually a puncher's chance with Mason.
Oh, we definitely the last however many games that Mason had taken over, I'll be honest, I thought he looked pretty darn good. Should he look good? Absolutely. He's been in the system for how many years? So he absolutely should have looked good. But yeah, there was part of a prayer of a chance there close to the end. I mean, we lost 31-17, I think was the score of that game. So when you look at the end score, it doesn't look like it was that close. But watching that game, it felt like at any point, something could turn our way and we could get back into it, kind of thing, to push the envelope and potentially beat Buffalo in Buffalo, which obviously that would have been literally insane. But yeah.
Right. So it didn't happen. So
did not.
Coming into the off season, it's like, okay, what does the team have to do to get better? And we are going to talk about that coming up here next, because there have been some big moves and some big changes. So we want to thank you guys for listening to this first episode.
Absolutely.
Please like and subscribe to the channel. It only help us out, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely. Take care.